Welcome to the SDI training video on resume building. In this video, you will get a general perspective on how to build a desirable resume. There are many ways to build a resume, and no two resumes should look the same. Throughout the training, we will go into detail about each section of a resume. Your resume is a tool that is used to introduce yourself into the workforce. A resume is only supposed to give a recruiter an overall summary of your skills and accomplishments, and therefore it's the best tool for making a first impression. Your first impression is very important because your resume will indicate who you are, what you can bring to the table, what your qualifications are, and how you fit in within the current work culture. Next, let's look at a resume formatting. All resumes are unique and different, and the guidelines may vary based on the industry. It should be clear and concise, be one page, unless it's a federal resume or unless told otherwise. Have minimum blank spaces, avoid nicknames, and use full names instead. Keep the same font throughout your resume. Never use I. Contain no acronyms. Have a legible font. Be checked for grammar and punctuation. And lastly, be accurate and truthful. Now that you have the necessary formatting tips, I suppose you think you're ready to start submitting your resume. But think twice before you do, as writing a resume can come easy to some and harder to others. What we all have in common is that we all make small mistakes. Make sure you proofread your resume, and better yet, is to get a second pair of eyes from someone like a family member, perhaps a close friend, a mentor, or even your career service advisor. Having a second pair of eyes may help with grammatical errors and even mispunctuation. They can also help you make sure your resume is coming across the way you envision it. Sometimes we tend to write something down one way, but then it appears a different way. Next, let's look at a resume in detail. Here's an example of a resume template we distribute to our graduates. Remember, these guidelines are based on your experience and skills. Do not copy this resume. The first section of the resume is the summary. The summary section is usually located at the top portion of the resume, right below your name, address, phone number, and email. Be sure to use proper spacing to distinguish one section from another. A summary is usually optional, as not everybody has space for it. Others may have a lot more work experience on their resume and choose to leave the summary section completely off. If you do plan on creating a summary, make sure it lists some of your qualifications, highlights your goals, what your career path entails, your most valuable skills, and your overall strengths. The summary does not have to be very long. It should be approximately 2 to 3 sentences. Below the summary section is where you list all of your professional experiences. In this section, you'll write down the different jobs or careers you've had. And underneath the jobs, you'll write down in detail the skills, responsibilities, and goals accomplished. You can write each professional experience in a bullet point or in a short paragraph format. You should also use action verbs in the beginning of each bullet point. Additionally, make sure your professional experiences are in chronological order. Lastly, make sure to use equal amounts of bullet points for each job. Below the professional experience section is the education section. Here's where to list all certificates and degrees that are relevant to the job you are pursuing. The key point to write down in the first row is the month and year you graduated from that program. The second row should indicate the type of certificate or degree acquired, name of the institution attended, and the location where you attended. For example, the state, territory, or even another country. The third row is only if you have space left within your resume. That is where you would place your overall graduating GPA and if you have any honors like summa cum laude or magna cum laude. Below the education section should be a list of your skill set. Listing other skills developed in your life would increase your marketability, especially if you are not able to include them in your professional experience section. So here's where you write down your soft skills, hard skills, or both. Before writing down your skill set, you should determine the difference between soft skills and hard skills. It's great to highlight both types of skills because it shows how adaptable and diverse you can be in the work environment. Hard skills are known as technical skills learned from training. The focus is on technical knowledge or training that you have gained through any life experience, training, and education. Below are listed some common hard skills examples. Soft skills are known as attributes and personality traits. The focus is on one's personality and how they communicate with others and their professional attitude. Below are listed some common soft skills examples. Now, let's look at the academic experience section. This section is optional and it's mainly for graduates who do not have previous professional experience in the firearms industry. This is the time to write down what hands-on training you have learned while attending your program. Your academic experience section should mainly focus on academic projects or knowledge you have learned hands-on. The academic experience should only be written in your resume if you are lacking professional experience. It should explain class projects or hands-on activities in detail. Also, look back on your class syllabus to help you remember some of the activities you're a part of. Your resume should be based on your background and how you want to come across. There are other sections to include in your resume if you are lacking information or have too many blank spaces. For example, publications, professional associations, honor societies, volunteer or leadership courses, and lastly, awards or recognitions. Your resume should reflect on who you are, but sometimes we tend to overshare information. Keep in mind that these are only recommendations on what you should not put on your resume. For example, hobbies, photos, graphics, gaps, birth dates, negative information, multiple pages, and references. Giving out too much information can seem helpful, but it can also cause employers to form biased opinions about you without even knowing it. Many people like to put their references after their resume. Your references should never go on a resume unless requested. You should have about 3 different references lined up just in case. Also, make sure you choose the correct people as your references. Who can be a reference? Your coach, a professor, your supervisor, or a community leader. Make sure to not put a family member as a reference. Lastly, out of respect, make sure you ask your references if you can use them as a reference. Then notify them the names of the companies you're applying to so they don't ignore the phone calls or emails they will hopefully receive from hiring managers or recruiters. Remember, no 2 references should look the same. Everyone is unique, so what makes you think your resume should not also be unique and one of a kind? We have now covered the most important resume tips. Feel free to download the resume templates located on the SDI Career Service webpage. Lastly, though, I would like to review your email address. Many people overlook an email address, but it can also hinder your chances of getting hired. Remember that your email address should be short, simple, and professional. Having a short email address makes it easy to recite and gives recruiters and hiring manager an easy way to contact you without entering the wrong address. Keeping your email address simple is also a great idea because not many people understand the difference between a dash and an underscore. Another benefit of having a simple email address is that once again, you are not giving the recruiter too much information, which could create a biased opinion about you. If you decide to create a new email address or review your current one, you should ask yourself, are you proud of your email address? If you are, then you should not have any problems. If you are not, you should take the time to create a professional one and make sure to avoid vulgar and inappropriate language. Is it professional? If you are unsure if your email address is professional, try getting a second pair of eyes. You may think it's professional, but depending on what is in your address, you could possibly harm your brand without even knowing it. Lastly, is your email address complicated? Lengthy? Again, when an email address is too lengthy, there's the possibility that a recruiter could accidentally mistype your address and send a job opportunity to the wrong person, or it could come back as undeliverable. This could create a lot of missed opportunities. These are only a couple of tips to consider when developing a new email address. When you work for an industry, many forms of communication are through email. That is why it's so important to take a second look. Listed here are several tools that can help you develop a resume. For example, many people may not have their own computer or printer, but there are a variety of ways for you to receive help for little to no cost. The local library, the community centers, borrowing a family member or friend's computer, visiting a FedEx to have easy access to printing. And to ensure your resume is free of grammatical, spelling, and punctuation errors, you might ask a friend, relative, or colleague to review it. Using an online grammatical checker tool such as Grammarly, Writer.com, or Google Grammar Checker. Listed below are a couple of search engines that can help you find a career or job in your industry. For more information, please visit the SDI website at www.sdi.edu or call us at 800-336-8939. Thank you for watching the SDI training video on resume building.